Ambassador Velric had traveled across 3 star systems to reach Earth's orbital station. His people, the Talani, were known throughout the galaxy as careful diplomats. They studied every species before making contact. They learned customs, languages, and social rules. But nothing in their research had prepared Velric for what he was about to see. The shuttle docked with a soft hiss. Velric adjusted his formal robes and checked his translator device one more time. First contact with humans was an important moment. The Talani Collective had watched Earth from far away for many years. They knew humans were a young species. They came from a dangerous planet filled with volcanoes, earthquakes, and violent storms. The Talani called such places Deathworlds because most species could not survive there. Yet humans had not only survived. They had built cities, created technology, and reached the stars. This made them interesting to the galactic community. It also made them a little frightening. Velric stepped through the airlock and into the station's greeting hall. The room was bright and clean. Large windows showed the blue curve of Earth below. Standing in the center of the room were 2 humans waiting to welcome him. The first was a tall man with black hair and calm eyes. He wore a gray uniform with symbols on the chest. His name tag read, Commander Han Tae-ho. Beside him stood a younger woman with her hair tied back. Her uniform was similar, but had fewer symbols. Her tag said, Lieutenant Park Yuna. Velric began to walk forward. He had practiced the human greeting called a handshake many times. He was ready to make a good first impression. Then he saw it. Something moved behind Commander Tae-ho. Something large and dark. It stepped out from behind the human's legs and stood in the open. Velric stopped walking. His legs would not move. His heart began to beat very fast. The creature was covered in thick black fur. It had 4 legs and stood almost as tall as Velric's waist. Its body was lean and powerful, built for running and hunting. But the worst part was its face. 2 golden eyes stared at Velric without blinking. Below those eyes was a long snout filled with white teeth. Sharp teeth. Teeth made for tearing flesh. Velric had seen pictures of this creature in the research files. The humans called it a dog, but the files had not shown how big it was. They had not shown how its muscles moved under its fur like coiled springs. They had not shown how its eyes watched everything with the focus of a born killer. Welcome to Earth Station 7, Commander Tae-ho said with a smile. I am Commander Han Tae-ho, and this is Lieutenant Park Yuna. We are honored to meet the first Talani ambassador. Velric tried to speak, but his throat had gone dry. He could not take his eyes off the creature. It had not moved, but it was watching him, studying him, deciding if he was prey. Lieutenant Yuna noticed his fear. She looked down at the creature, and then back at Velric. Oh, do not worry about Gom, she said. He is very friendly. Friendly? Velric's translator must have made an error. That word could not apply to this monster. In the galactic database, creatures like this were classified as apex predators. They were the most dangerous hunters on their worlds. Every intelligent species in the known galaxy avoided them. Some species built entire defense systems just to keep such creatures away from their colonies. And this human woman was calling one friendly. Commander Tae-ho reached down and placed his hand on the creature's head. He rubbed the fur between its ears. The creature's tail began to move back and forth. Its mouth opened, and its tongue came out. It looked almost like it was smiling. Gom has been with me for 8 years, Tae-ho said. He is a good boy. Velric felt his legs shake. He took a small step backward. You keep this creature with you? On purpose? The 2 humans looked at each other. They seemed confused by the question. Of course, Yuna said. Many humans have dogs. They are our companions. Companions. The word echoed in Velric's mind. On his homeworld, the Talani had spent thousands of years building walls and weapons to protect themselves from predators. They had driven dangerous animals to extinction, or locked them away in special zones far from cities. The idea of inviting one into your home, of calling it a companion, was madness. Is something wrong, Ambassador? Tae-ho asked. His voice was kind, but his eyes showed concern. Velric forced himself to speak. On my world, we do not. We have never. He stopped and took a breath. Creatures like this are very dangerous. We stay far away from them. Teho nodded slowly. I understand. Earth is different. We have lived with dogs for a very long time. They are part of our families. Velric felt dizzy. These humans treated apex predators like family members. They let them into their homes, fed them, and slept beside them. The research files had mentioned this, but Velric had thought it was an exaggeration. Surely no species would actually do such a thing. But here was the proof standing right in front of him. The creature called Gom walked forward. Velric's body tensed. Every instinct told him to run, to hide, to get away from those teeth and claws. But his legs would not obey. He stood frozen as the predator approached. Gom stopped in front of Velric and sniffed the air. Its nose twitched as it took in his scent. Velric could feel the warmth of its breath. He could see every detail of its face, every tooth in its open mouth. Then, to his shock, Gom sat down. The creature looked up at Velric and tilted its head to one side. Its tail swept across the floor in a slow, gentle motion. He likes you, Yuna said. She was smiling. Velric did not know what to say. In all his years as a diplomat, he had never felt so confused. The most dangerous creature he had ever seen was sitting calmly at his feet, wagging its tail like it wanted to be friends. Perhaps, Teho said, we should begin our tour of the station. You can get to know Gom better along the way. Velric's translator beeped. It was asking if he wanted to record the conversation for later study. He pressed the button with shaking fingers. Yes. He would need to study this. He would need to understand how humans had done the impossible. They had taken death itself and turned it into a friend. As they walked through the station's corridors, Velric stayed as far from Gom as possible. The creature walked beside Commander Teho, with easy, confident steps. It seemed to know exactly where it was going, like it had walked these halls 1,000 times before. Other humans passed them in the corridors. Some smiled at Gom and reached down to touch its fur. The creature accepted their touches with patience, sometimes pushing its head against their hands. Not one human showed any fear. To them, this apex predator was as normal as the walls and floors. Velric realized he had much to learn about humans. His species had thought they understood Earth and its people. They had been wrong. The truth was far stranger and far more terrifying than anything in their research files. Humans did not just survive on their Deathworld. They had made alliances with its deadliest creatures. And if they could do that, what else were they capable of? Velric looked at the black creature walking ahead of him. He looked at the humans who treated it like family. For the first time in his long career, he felt truly afraid of the species he had come to meet. The negotiations were going to be very interesting indeed. The tour of Earth Station 7 continued for another hour. Velric tried to focus on what Commander Teho was saying. He tried to look at the technology, the medical bays, the communication centers, but his eyes kept returning to the black creature that walked beside them. Gom moved with silent grace. Its paws made almost no sound on the metal floor. Every few minutes, its ears would turn toward some distant noise that Velric could not hear. Its golden eyes scanned every corner, every shadow, every movement. This was not the behavior of a pet. This was the behavior of a hunter. And here is our observation deck, Lieutenant Yuna said. She opened a large door and led them into a wide room with windows covering one entire wall. Earth hung in the darkness of space, blue and white, and beautiful. Velric barely noticed the view. He was watching Gom walk to the window and sit down. The creature stared at the planet below with an expression that was almost thoughtful. Does it understand what it is looking at? Velric asked. Teho laughed softly. Gom is very smart. He knows we are in space. He knows Earth is his home. The commander walked over and sat down next to the creature. He put his arm around its thick neck. Dogs can understand many things. They feel happiness, sadness, love, and loyalty. They are not so different from us. Velric's translator made a small beeping sound. It was having trouble processing the concept. How could a predator feel loyalty? Predators hunted. They killed. They ate. That was their nature. Loyalty was something prey species developed to protect each other from hunters. I do not understand, Velric admitted. On my world, creatures like this killed my ancestors. We fought them for thousands of years. We built walls and weapons. We learned to fear them because fear kept us alive. Yuna sat down on a nearby bench. Her face was kind as she listened. Humans went through something similar, she said. Long ago, wolves hunted us too. They were dangerous. Many humans died to their teeth. Then how can you keep one beside you now? Velric asked. His voice was higher than he intended. How can you trust something that once killed your people? Because we changed each other, Tejo said. He was still petting Gom's fur. The creature had closed its eyes and was leaning into his touch. Tens of thousands of years ago, some wolves started following human camps. They ate the scraps we left behind. Over time, the wolves that were less aggressive survived better near humans. And humans who accepted wolves had better hunters and guards. Velric sat down. His legs felt weak. You are saying that humans and wolves chose each other? In a way, yes, Yuna said. We call it domestication. We changed wolves over many generations until they became dogs. They became our partners. The concept was so alien to Velric that his mind struggled to accept it. The Talani had never domesticated predators. They had domesticated plants and small, harmless animals. The idea of taking a killer and turning it into a friend seemed like something from a nightmare. But they still have teeth, Velric said. He pointed at Gom with a shaking finger. They still have claws. They could still kill you, Tejo nodded. Yes, they could. Gom is strong enough to hurt me if he wanted to, but he does not want to. He loves me. I raised him from a small puppy. I fed him, played with him, and kept him safe. In return, he protects me with everything he has. Velric's translator beeped again. The word love was causing problems. It was trying to match the human concept with Talani emotional categories. But nothing fit exactly. Your device is confused, Yuna observed. Yes, Velric admitted. The word you use. Love. We have similar words, but they apply only to family and mates. Not to other species, certainly not to predators. Humans love many things, Yuna said. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. She touched the screen and showed Velric a picture. It was a small animal with golden fur and floppy ears. This is my dog, Bori. She waits for me on Earth. When I come home, she runs to the door and jumps with happiness. She sleeps at the foot of my bed. When I am sad, she sits beside me and puts her head in my lap. Velric stared at the picture. The creature looked softer than Gom, but it still had the same basic shape. The same teeth, the same eyes that belonged to a hunter. And you are not afraid? He asked. Yuna shook her head. Never. Bori has never hurt anyone. She would die to protect me. That is what dogs do. They give their lives for their families. Velric felt something strange in his chest. It was not quite fear anymore. It was something closer to wonder, mixed with horror. These humans had found a way to take one of nature's most perfect killers and fill its heart with love. They had turned instinct into choice, hunting into protection. It was the most terrifying thing Velric had ever heard. He stood up and walked to the window. Earth turned slowly below, covered in clouds and oceans. Somewhere down there, billions of humans lived alongside billions of these creatures. They walked together on streets. They slept in the same rooms. They trusted each other with their lives. How many dogs are on Earth? Velric asked. About 900 million, Tejo said. Velric turned around so fast that Gom lifted his head and made a low sound. 900 million apex predators living among humans. 900 million sets of teeth and claws, all kept close, not by chains or cages but by love, and loyalty. That is, Velric could not find the words. That is an army. Teho raised an eyebrow. We do not think of them that way. They are our friends, but if they ever turned against you. Velric's voice trailed off. He could imagine it. A wave of predators sweeping through human cities. It would be a disaster beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. They will not, Yuna said firmly. Dogs have been loyal to humans for 40,000 years. They have had countless chances to turn against us. They never have. They never will. 40,000 years. The number settled into Velric's mind like a stone dropping into water. His own species was 300,000 years old. In that time, they had never once tried to form a bond with a predator. They had never even considered it. But humans had done it almost immediately after becoming intelligent. It was one of the first things they did, and they had maintained that bond for 400 centuries. What kind of species does that? What kind of mind looks at a creature with killing teeth and thinks, I want that to be my friend? Gom stood up and walked over to Velric. The ambassador froze again, but this time he did not step back. He watched as the creature sat down in front of him and looked up at his face. He wants to smell you again, Teho said. He is trying to understand you. Dogs learn about the world through scent. Velric slowly extended his hand. Every nerve in his body screamed at him to pull back, but he fought the instinct. His fingers trembled as they approached the creature's nose. Gom sniffed his hand carefully. The wet nose touched his scales, and Velric felt a shiver run through him. Then Gom did something unexpected. He licked Velric's fingers with a warm, wet tongue. He likes you, Yuna said again. She was smiling even wider now. Velric looked down at the predator that had just licked his hand. Its tail was wagging slowly. Its eyes were no longer sharp and watchful. They looked almost soft. I do not understand your species, Velric said quietly. I thought I did. I was wrong. Teho walked over and stood beside him. Most species in the galaxy feel the same way when they meet us. They cannot understand how we live with predators. They cannot understand why we would want to. And what do you tell them? Velric asked. The commander looked down at Gom and smiled. We tell them that on Earth, nothing survives alone. Our planet is too dangerous, too violent, so we learn to make friends with anyone who would stand beside us. Even the creatures that once hunted us. Velric thought about his own world. The Talani had built great walls to keep danger out. They had created safe zones and defense networks. They had made themselves secure through isolation. Humans had chosen the opposite path. They had embraced danger. They had invited it into their homes and their hearts. And somehow, against all logic, it had worked. For the first time, Velric began to understand why the galaxy found humans so frightening. It was not their technology or their weapons. It was their ability to form bonds with anything and everything. If they could turn wolves into loyal friends, what else could they do? What other monsters were they capable of loving? Velric looked out the window at Earth one more time. He wondered what other secrets that blue planet held. He wondered what other impossible things humans had achieved through their strange, fearless love. He was about to find out. That evening, Velric sat in the station's dining hall with Commander Teho and Lieutenant Yuna. The room was large and filled with long tables, where station crew ate their meals. Velric had been given a special dish made from ingredients that matched Talani dietary needs. He ate slowly, still thinking about everything he had seen. Gom lay on the floor beside Teho's chair. Every few minutes, the commander would reach down and drop a small piece of food. The creature would catch it in the air and swallow it whole. It was a casual gesture, done without thinking. Like breathing. You still seem troubled, Ambassador, Yuna said. She was eating something the humans called noodles, with two thin sticks. Velric set down his eating tool. I have many questions. I do not know where to begin. Then begin anywhere, Teho said. We have time. Velric thought for a moment. Your species domesticated wolves 40,000 years ago. But why wolves? Why not some other animal? Something less dangerous? Yuna wiped her mouth with a cloth and leaned back in her chair. We did domesticate other animals. Cows, sheep, chickens, horses. But wolves were special. They were smart enough to communicate with us. They could hunt with us and guard our camps. No other animal could do those things. Also, Tejo added, wolves lived in packs. They had social rules, just like humans. They understood concepts like family and leadership. When we formed bonds with them, they treated us like members of their pack. Velric's translator hummed as it processed this information. So you joined their social structure? In a way, yes, Yuna said. And they joined ours. We became one family, made of two species. One family made of two species. Velric repeated the words in his mind. On his homeworld, each species stayed separate. They traded and communicated, but they did not mix. The idea of combining families with another species was deeply strange. Tell me about the early days, Velric said. How did the first bonds form? Tejo smiled and put down his eating sticks. He seemed pleased by the question. Our scientists believe it started with food. Early humans left bones and scraps outside their camps. Wolves came to eat them. At first, humans and wolves kept their distance. They were both afraid of each other. That makes sense, Velric said. Both species were dangerous. Exactly, Tejo continued. But over time, the wolves that stayed calm around humans got more food. They survived better. They had more puppies. Slowly, each generation of wolves became less afraid. Yuna picked up the story. At the same time, humans noticed that the wolves warned them when danger was coming. They could hear and smell things that humans could not, so humans started leaving more food for the wolves that helped them. A trade, Velric said. Food for warning. The beginning of a trade, Yuna agreed. Then some humans began taking wolf puppies into their camps. They raised them by hand, fed them, and kept them warm. These puppies grew up thinking of humans as their family. Velric imagined it. A human holding a tiny wolf in their arms, feeding it, caring for it. The thought was both beautiful and terrifying. Were there not accidents? He asked. Did the wolves not attack? Sometimes, Tejo admitted. The process was not perfect. Some wolves were too wild. Some humans were too careless. But over thousands of years, we learned to choose the right wolves and raise them the right way. We bred them for certain traits, Yuna explained. Calmness, loyalty, intelligence. We made them smaller or larger depending on what we needed. Some dogs were bred to hunt. Others were bred to guard. Others were bred just to be companions. You changed their very nature, Velric said softly. We shaped each other, Tejo corrected. Humans changed too. We became better at understanding nonverbal communication. We learned to read body language and emotions. Dogs taught us empathy. Velric looked down at Gum. The creature was watching the conversation with alert eyes. Its ears moved slightly with each voice, tracking the sounds. It understood that something important was being discussed, even if it could not understand the words. What breed is Gum? Velric asked. He is a German shepherd, Tejo said proudly. They are one of the most intelligent and loyal breeds. They are often used as working dogs, police dogs, and military dogs. Military dogs. Velric felt a chill run through him. You use them in combat? Yes, Tejo said simply. Dogs have served in human armies for thousands of years. They guard, they track, they attack enemies. In return, their handlers protect them with their lives. Velric tried to imagine a battlefield with these creatures running alongside human soldiers. The teeth, the speed, the fearless loyalty. It would be a nightmare for any enemy. Has any other species ever attacked a human station or colony guarded by dogs? Velric asked. Tejo and Yuna looked at each other. Something passed between them. Some shared memory. Once, Yuna said. About 15 years ago, a group of raiders attacked a human colony on Mars. They did not know about the dogs. What happened? Yuna took a slow breath. The raiders landed at night. They thought they would catch the colonists sleeping. but the dogs heard them coming from a kilometer away. Every dog in the colony started barking. By the time the raiders reached the buildings, every human was armed and ready. "And the dogs?" Velric asked. "The dogs fought beside their owners," Tejo said. The raiders had never seen anything like it. They were not prepared for creatures that attacked without fear, that kept fighting even when injured, that protected humans until their last breath. The table was silent for a moment. Gom made a soft sound in his throat, as if he knew they were talking about something serious. "How many dogs died?" Velric asked quietly. 12, Yuna said. "We remember every one of their names. There is a monument to them on Mars. A monument to animals." Velric's people had never built monuments to animals. They were too different, too separate. But humans honored their dogs like fallen warriors. "The raiders," Velric said. "Did they ever attack a human colony again?" "No," Tejo said. Word spread through the galaxy. Humans keep apex predators as guards. Predators that are willing to die for them. After that, most raiders decided to find easier targets. Velric sat back in his chair. He finally understood why humans had brought Gom to this meeting. It was not just companionship. It was a message. A warning. Any species that attacked humans would face not just their technology but their bonded predators. "You have turned love into a weapon," Velric said. Tejo shook his head. "No. Love is not a weapon. Love is what makes the weapon unnecessary. Because Gom loves me, he will protect me. Because I love him, I will never ask him to fight unless there is no other choice." "The bond is real," Yuna added. "That is what other species do not understand. We do not train dogs to obey through fear. We raise them to love us. And love makes them stronger than any trained soldier." Velric looked at Gom again. The creature had put its head on Tejo's foot and closed its eyes. It looked peaceful, content. But Velric knew now what lay beneath that peace. A will of iron. A heart that would fight to the death for its family. "I must include this in my report to the collective," Velric said. "They need to understand what humans are truly capable of." "Will they believe you?" Yuna asked. Velric thought about the careful, cautious leaders of his species. They would read his report and think he had gone mad. An entire species that bonds with apex predators? That treats them as family? That mourns them with monuments? Probably not, Velric admitted. They will have to see it for themselves. Then perhaps, Tejo said with a small smile, you should bring a dog back with you. Velric's eyes went wide. The idea was terrifying. It was also, in a strange way, tempting. "I will think about it," he said. And to his own surprise, he meant it. The dinner continued. And slowly Velric felt his fear transforming into something else. Not comfort, exactly, but understanding. He was beginning to see why humans were the way they were, and he was beginning to see why the galaxy would never be the same now that humans had joined it. They brought their predators with them, their guardians, their family, and that changed everything. The alarm came at midnight. Velric was in his guest quarters, trying to sleep. The bed was strange and the air smelled different, but exhaustion was finally pulling him into rest. Then, the red lights started flashing, and a loud horn filled the station. He sat up, hearts pounding. His translator was converting the words coming from the speakers. Alert. Unauthorized ships approaching. All personnel to defensive positions. This is not a drill. Velric stumbled out of bed and pulled on his robes. He had no idea what to do. The Talani were not fighters. His species had avoided conflict for thousands of years. They used diplomacy, trade, and careful negotiation. They did not have defensive positions. The door to his quarters opened, and Lieutenant Yuna appeared. Her face was calm but serious. In her hands, she held a weapon that Velric did not recognize. "Ambassador, please come with me," she said. "We need to move you to a safe location." "What is happening?" Velric asked as he followed her into the corridor. "Pirates," Yuna said shortly. 3 ships. They came out of nowhere, hiding behind a cargo transport. They are trying to dock with the station. Pirates. Velric had heard stories about space pirates, but his species rarely encountered them. The Talani were careful about where they traveled. They avoided dangerous sectors, but humans had built their station in a busy area, near trade routes and mining operations. "Will your defenses stop them?" Velric asked. Yuna's jaw tightened. "We have weapons, but these pirates are fast. They got past our outer sensors. One ship has already attached to the station." Velric felt cold fear spreading through his body. He was on a station that was being invaded. He was light years from home, surrounded by a species he barely understood, and somewhere on this station, there were creatures with intentions to kill. They reached a heavy door marked with warning symbols. Yuna pressed her hand to a panel, and the door slid open. Inside was a small room filled with supplies and emergency equipment. Commander Tejo was already there, along with 5 other humans. And at Tejo's side, alert and ready, stood Gom. The dog's entire posture had changed. Gone was the relaxed, friendly creature that had licked Velric's hand. In its place was something else. Something older and darker. Gom's ears were pointed forward. His body was low and tense. His lips were pulled back slightly, showing just the tips of his teeth. His eyes scanned the door with cold focus. "Ambassador," Tejo said. "Stay here with us. This room is reinforced. The pirates cannot get through easily." "What about the rest of your crew?" Velric asked. "Fighting," Tejo said simply. "Our security teams are engaging the intruders, but we need to keep you safe. Your life is our responsibility." Velric looked around the room. The humans were checking their weapons and talking quietly to each other. They were scared. He could see that. But they were not panicking. They had trained for this. They knew what to do. And they had Gom. The sounds of fighting grew closer. Velric heard distant shouting, the crack of weapons, the thud of bodies hitting walls. Then footsteps, getting louder. Running footsteps. "They are coming this way," one of the humans said. He was watching a small screen that showed the corridor outside. Tejo nodded and moved to stand near the door. He positioned himself behind a metal barrier, his weapon raised. Yuna did the same on the other side. Gom stood between them, perfectly still, waiting. The door shook. Someone was trying to break through. Velric backed into the corner of the room, his heart's beating so fast that he felt sick. This could not be happening. He was a diplomat. He was supposed to be safe. The door shook again. A deep dent appeared in the metal. Whatever was on the other side was strong. "They have cutting tools," Yuna reported. "They will be through in about 2 minutes." 2 minutes. Velric had 2 minutes before killers entered this room. He thought about his family back home. He thought about all the things he had never said. All the plans he had never made. He thought about dying far from everything he knew. Then Gom made a sound. It started low, deep in the dog's chest. A growl that vibrated through the floor. It was the most terrifying sound Velric had ever heard. It spoke of ancient hunts and bloody victories. It spoke of fangs and fury and death. The cutting sounds on the other side of the door stopped. "What was that?" someone said. The voice was muffled by the metal, but Velric could hear the fear in it. Gom growled again, louder this time. The sound filled the room and seemed to push against the walls. His fur was standing up along his spine. His muscles were coiled like springs about to release. "There is something in there," another voice said. "Something big. Something big." "It is just a dog," a third voice said. But there was uncertainty in it. "That does not sound like any dog I have heard," the first voice replied. "Maybe we should try another room," Tejo smiled grimly. He reached down and put his hand on Gom's back. The dog did not relax, but his tail moved once, acknowledging the touch. "They are afraid," Velric whispered. "They should be," Yuna said. The door began shaking again. The pirates had decided to continue. The cutting resumed, and the dent grew larger. Through the gap, Velric could see movement. Shapes. Figures in dark armor. "Get ready," Tejo said quietly. The door fell inward with a crash. 3 figures rushed through, weapons raised. They were covered in black armor with helmets hiding their faces. They moved fast. Clearly trained, but they were not trained for Gom. The dog launched himself forward like a missile. He was on the first pirate before the man could react. Jaws closed around the pirate's arm, and there was a terrible crunching sound. The pirate screamed and dropped his weapon. Gom released the arm and spun toward the next target. The second pirate tried to aim at the dog, but Tejo's weapon cracked, and the pirate went down. The third pirate turned to run, but Yuna's shot caught him in the leg. He fell to the ground, cursing. In less than 5 seconds, the attack was over. Gom stood over the fallen pirates, his teeth bared, blood on his muzzle. His eyes were still cold and focused. He was still in hunting mode, still ready to kill anything that threatened his family. "Secure them," Tejo ordered. The other humans moved forward quickly, binding the pirates and taking their weapons. Velric had not moved from the corner. He could not move. He had just watched a Deathworld predator in action. The speed, the power, the absolute lack of hesitation. Gom had not thought about attacking. He had simply attacked, because his family was threatened. Tejo walked over to Gom and knelt beside him. "Good boy," he said softly. "Good boy." He wiped the blood from the dog's muzzle with gentle hands. Gom's tail wagged. Just like that, the killer became a pet again. The ancient hunter became a happy dog, pleased with his owner's praise. Velric stared at the scene with wide eyes. The same creature that had just maimed a man was now pushing his head into Tejo's chest, seeking affection. The transition was seamless. Natural. "Is the ambassador unharmed?" Yuna asked. Velric found his voice. "I am fine. I am fine. The station is secure," a voice said over the communication system. "All hostile forces have been neutralized or captured." The humans in the room relaxed slightly. Some of them smiled. A few laughed with relief. They were alive. They had won. Gom walked over to Velric and sat down in front of him. The dog's eyes were soft again. His tail wagged slowly. He tilted his head as if asking if Velric was okay. Without thinking, Velric reached out and touched the dog's head. The fur was warm and soft under his fingers. He could feel the powerful muscles beneath, the same muscles that had just brought down an armored warrior. "You protected us," Velric said quietly. "You did not even think about it. You just did it." Gom licked his hand, just like before, as if nothing had happened. Tejo came to stand beside them. "Now you understand," he said. "This is why we keep dogs. Not because we need weapons, but because we need family that will fight for us. And we will fight for them." In their present, Velric looked at the captured pirates, then at the dog, then at the humans who had defended him. He thought about everything he had learned in the past day. He thought about wolves and humans, about 40,000 years of love and loyalty, about the bond that turned predators into protectors. "I think," Velric said slowly, "I am beginning to understand humans at last." Tejo smiled. "That is all we can ask." Gom barked once, happily, as if agreeing. And despite everything, despite the fear and the violence and the strangeness, Velric found himself smiling too. The morning after the attack, Earth Station 7 was calm again. Repair crews worked on the damaged sections. Medical teams treated the injured. Security officers interviewed the captured pirates. Life continued, because that was what humans did. They survived, and then they moved forward. Velric stood at the observation deck window, watching Earth turn slowly below. He had not slept well. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Gom launching at the pirates. Teeth flashing. Muscles rippling. The image was burned into his memory forever. Footsteps approached behind him. He turned to see Commander Tejo and Gom walking toward him. The dog's tail was wagging, as if the battle had never happened. There was no blood on his muzzle now. He looked like any other happy pet. "Ambassador," Tejo said. "I wanted to check on you before your shuttle arrives." Velric nodded. His transport back to Talani space was scheduled to leave in a few hours. He would return to his people with stories they would struggle to believe. "I am well," Velric said. "Thanks to you. And to Gom." Tejo smiled and reached down to scratch the dog's ears. He was just doing his job. Protecting his family. "That is what I wanted to talk about," Velric said. He turned to face the commander fully. "I have been thinking all night. About everything I have seen. About everything I have learned." "And what have you concluded?" Tejo asked. Velric chose his words carefully. "My species has survived for 300,000 years. We are ancient by galactic standards. We have built great cities, explored many worlds, and created a peaceful civilization. We are proud of what we have accomplished." Tejo nodded, listening. "But we did it through caution," Velric continued. "Through separation. Through keeping everything dangerous far away from us. We never tried to form bonds with predators. We never invited danger into our homes. We thought that was the only way to survive." Gom walked over and sat down next to Velric. The ambassador looked down at the creature that had terrified him just yesterday. Now, he saw something different. He saw a creature that had chosen to love, a creature that had turned its killing instincts into protection. "Humans chose a different path," Velric said. "You did not run from danger. You made friends with it. You looked at the most terrifying creatures on your world and said, 'Let us be family.' And they agreed." Tejo was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. "We did not have much choice. Earth is not a gentle world. If we had tried to hide from every danger, we would have died. So we learned to adapt, to cooperate, to build bonds that made us stronger." "It worked," Velric said simply. "Your species is young, but you are already spreading across the stars. You build stations and colonies and ships, and everywhere you go, you bring your dogs, your guardians, your family." Lieutenant Yuna appeared at the doorway. She was holding 2 cups of something hot. "Tea for anyone who wants it," she said. She walked over and handed a cup to Tejo. Then she offered one to Velric. The ambassador hesitated, then accepted it. The warmth felt good in his hands. "I have a question," Velric said, "and I want you to answer honestly." "Of course," Yuna said. Velric looked at both of them. "Are humans afraid of anything?" The 2 humans looked at each other. A silent communication passed between them. "Yes," Tejo said finally. "We are afraid of many things. Death, loss, being alone, failing the people we love. But you do not let fear control you," Velric observed. "We try not to," Yuna said. "Fear is useful. It warns us of danger. But if we let fear make all our choices, we would never do anything brave. We would never explore. We would never love." Velric thought about the Talani. His people let fear guide them constantly. Fear of predators. Fear of conflict. Fear of the unknown. That fear had kept them safe, but it had also kept them small. "I want to propose something," Velric said. "Something that will shock my government." Tejo raised an eyebrow. "Go on." "I want to bring a dog back to my homeworld." Silence filled the observation deck. Even Gom seemed to sense the weight of the moment. He looked up at Velric with his golden eyes. "Not as a pet," Velric added quickly. "As an ambassador. A representative of your species within ours. I want my people to see what I have seen. To understand what I have come to understand." Yuna's face broke into a wide smile. "Ambassador, that is beautiful." Tejo looked more thoughtful. "It is a big responsibility. Dogs need care, attention, and love. They cannot be left alone. They need to be part of a family." "I know," Velric said. "I have been thinking about it. On my world, we have no experience with such bonds. It will be difficult. Many will be afraid. but I believe it is worth trying. And I won. He looked down at Gom. Your species showed us that enemies can become friends, that fear can become trust, that predators can become protectors. Perhaps it is time for my species to learn the same lesson. Gom stood up and walked closer to Velric. The dog pressed his head against the ambassador's leg. It was a gentle gesture, full of warmth. Velric felt something shift in his chest. Something that had been closed for a long time began to open. There is a shelter on Earth, Una said. They have dogs that need homes. Good dogs. Kind dogs. Dogs that would love a chance to start a new life. A rescue dog for an alien ambassador, Tejo said with a chuckle. That would be something new. Velric felt his fear, still present but no longer controlling. I would like that, he said. A dog that needs a home. A creature that deserves a second chance. Perhaps we can learn from each other. A dog that needs a home. Tejo extended his hand. It took Velric a moment to remember what the gesture meant. He reached out and grasped the human's hand, feeling the firm grip, the warmth of another intelligent being. Then we have a deal, Tejo said. The first interstellar dog adoption in galactic history. Velric looked out the window at Earth one more time. Somewhere down there was a dog waiting for him. A creature that would teach his people what humans had learned 40,000 years ago. That strength comes from love. That loyalty is more powerful than fear. That family is not limited by species. Hours later, Velric stood in a small building on Earth's surface. Rows of enclosures held dogs of every shape and size. Some barked excitedly. Others watched quietly. All of them wanted the same thing. A home. A family. Someone to love. A worker led him to a particular enclosure. Inside was a medium-sized dog, with golden fur and warm brown eyes. Her name tag said, Bomb. She had been found wandering the streets, alone and hungry. Now she watched Velric approach with hopeful curiosity. Velric knelt down to her level. His hearts were beating fast. But not from fear this time. Hello, Bomb, he said softly. Would you like to come home with me? Bomb's tail began to wag. She stepped forward and licked his hand through the enclosure bars, just like Gom had done, just like dogs had been doing for 40,000 years. Velric smiled. I will take that as a yes. He stood up and looked at Tejo and Una, who had come to see him off. Thank you, Una replied, for being willing to learn. Gom barked once, and Bomb answered with a bark of her own. 2 dogs, 2 species, 2 worlds. And now, the beginning of something new. As Velric's shuttle lifted off from Earth, carrying him and his new companion toward the stars, he thought about the report he would give to the Talani collective. He would tell them about humans and their dogs, about the bond that turned predators into protectors, about the love that made the impossible possible. He looked down at Bomb, curled up in a travel carrier beside his seat. She was already sleeping, trusting him completely. Just like that. No hesitation. No fear. Velric understood now why humans were the way they were. They had learned the greatest secret in the universe, that the most dangerous creatures can become the most loyal friends. That death itself will stand beside you, if you offer it love. And now, the Talani would learn that secret too, one dog at a time.